Bonjour, hello. I am Racquel Banazak. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm an artist from Minneapolis, Minnesota. The title of the show is Once We Traveled Above the Earth, and it is in reference to Indigenous past, present, and futures as a way to reflect on our ancestors as well as where we will be in the future. Throughout the process of this show, I made 7 pieces. 4 of them, I believe, were heat transfer processes, which is something that's near and dear to my heart, which I learned in art school when I was going to the Ontario College of Art and Design and University in Toronto. And 2 of them are pieces that are on black velvet, and one of them is an installation piece. I've always wanted to do an installation piece, and so when SooVAC approached me and said that I could do an installation that was suspended from the ceiling, I got really excited and I wanted to incorporate that. And that was the piece that kind of centered all of my work and my ideas that filtered throughout the entire show. During my undergrad time I studied abroad, roughly speaking, in Toronto at the Ontario College of Art and Design University, their Indigenous Visual Culture program there. And I got to see how a lot of Native artists use like traditional materials as well as like contemporary materials to inform their work. And so I had one of my teachers showed me a bunch of fillwork examples and birch bark biting, and I don't do that in my practice necessarily, but just to see how like those repeated forms throughout, because my work speaks to a landscape, but it's not necessarily about the landscape itself. Currently, I am interning, a graduate intern at the Minnesota Historical Society, and I get to work with their Native collections a lot. And so I'm seeing all this beautiful beadwork down there, quillwork, different forms of just basically like our visual culture. Grew up with my mom's sewing surrounding sewing room surrounding like my whole entire house. Basically, it just was such a big collection that it spilled into every room and every corner. And so I really like textiles, incorporating textiles when possible. And one of my favorite textiles to include is black velvet. You see that a lot in beadwork, and Ojibwe beadwork specifically, and it just makes everything pop in a way. And then you almost want to go up and touch it because it's just like got that soft, delicate appearance, but yet it's very strong at the same time. I am a graduate student at the University of Minnesota in the Heritage Studies and Public History program there. I view that a lot as storytelling. How do we tell our stories? It can be, through the traditional papers, but more importantly, I think it's important to have public-facing work. And art definitely is public-facing in many ways. So I have moved from my own personal practices, my own stories that I tell myself, to how do I really engage with, outside of myself? How do I tell these stories to my children? How do I tell it to my community and to the broader public so that people understand who we are and where we are going into the future, and that we will be a part of the future? I've always viewed our existence as a people on a circular path more so, because there's our ancestors, and then there's us, and then we'll become ancestors one day. So it's all cyclical. We're in it with our babies, our parents, our brothers, sisters, our grandparents throughout this life. And so I wanted to focus on walking in the in-between, which is this place that exists in our minds as well as our physical spaces, because when we're walking on this actual physical landscape that we're in, these are the same paths that our people before us have walked, and they're the same spaces that people will walk after we're long gone.